Welcome back to Basic Biostatistics 2 to Session 6 and video number 1. Session 6 is all about graphs. I will show you in this session how to do different graphs with SPSS and how to edit the different charts you're going to create in SPSS in the chart editor, for instance changing the color or the thickness of the line. In this first video I'm going to show you how to make histograms and how to make scatter dots or scatter plots. Graphs are a nice visual aid how to present your results. As you will see, graphs do not provide you with statistical tests, so you won't get any p-values. However, it's sometimes nice to present in a graphical way some of your results, and some results are better to be presented in figures than in tables. In SPSS, we can find the graphs just between Analyze and Utilities. We have here a function called Graphs, and when you click on Graphs, you have a small window that opens that consists of Chart Builder, Graphboard Template Chooser, and Legacy Dialogues. Chart Builder is a way how SPSS aids you to select the correct graph. I let it up to you to explore this functionally by yourself. The easier way how to make graphs is go to Legacy Dialogues, and when you go to Legacy Dialogues, we have about 10 different graphs you can select from. It starts with bar charts, 3D bar charts with different line graphs, areas, pie charts, box plots, error bars, population pyramids, and here in the end we have scatter dots and histograms that we're going to use in this first video. The easiest way how to get used to work with graphs is just to try to figure it out. It's just select one of the graphs, see what variables you need if it's continuous categorical, and see what happens. You can't do anything wrong, and it's really, I urge you in this session 6 to play around with the graph function, try to create different kind of graphs of your data of Santa Claus, and this will help you to find out how different thing works. However, I'm going to give you a couple of examples of some specific graphs such as scatter dots. If you select scatter dots is a graph to see how well two continuous variables sort of correlate. I choose simple scatter and click on define, and we have a new window that opens where you can define like the variable on the y-axis and the variable of x-axis. Scatter dots are nice to see or to hypothesize where there may be a correlation between two continuous variables, as we're going to see in session 7. So in my example, I choose age of dwarfs for the y-axis and systolic blood pressure for the x-axis. So I'm interested to know whether age increases when systolic pressure increases or the other way around. I can give it a title to the graphs. I go to titles and I can write that scatter plot or scatter of age and systolic blood pressure. I click on continue, and then I click on OK, and then the output file shows you a nice scatter plot. Now you can see that all these little dots are different observations where 60 dwarfs. So you're going to have 60 different dots. For instance, that dot means that that specific dwarf has about a blood pressure of close to 140 and the age of probably about 1,800 years. And we see here we have to scatter the title of the chart we gave. Automatically SPSS used that definition of variable for naming or labeling the x and the y-axis. In some cases we do not like that specific figure, we like to change it. For instance, you don't like the dots, they're round and they're black. How can we change now this figure in SPSS? The answer is pretty simple. We double click on it. And when you double click, you see a chart editor window opens here. And here we can start to change the different elements. For instance, we can put a line, the best fitting line through these points to see whether there's a linear relationship between the different scatter plots. This is the line we found in elements, and here we select fit line at total. And now you see SPSS fits you the best line through the scatter dots. It doesn't mean that this line is statistically significant. It's more like a visual aid. Now as you have the line, we also see that there's a new window open, the property window, and the property window we can make different kind of changes. For instance, if you go to line and we do not like the weight of the line, we can make it thicker by selecting the weight, for instance, of 3. And if you do not like the line style, we can have it in an intermediate line, and we can change the color, for instance, to red. We select red, and in order that the program applies all these changes we selected, we click on apply. And now you see that we have a dotted red line through the different points of the scatter plot. We close that window, and we have now a different chart. You can change, for instance, the x-axis. You can have here, it can change the color as well from the axis. You can change the line, the style of the line, make it thicker, for instance, if you need some visual aid. There's a scale. You can change the scale from the lowest to the highest. For instance, I'd like to have it just till 140, and the minimum, maybe it's enough to have 120. Once I apply these changes, we see how the whole chart changes. So I really urge you to try to play a little bit around editing it. It's more about graphical design, creativity. Create an exercise 6 of this session. Create different kind of charts. Use the chart editor, play around, see the different function that there's. Where can you change the labeling and the products? So we close that window, and once you're happy with your chart, we close the chart editor, and you see we have the changes taken into place of our scatter plot. We have now an intermediate red line through it, and we have changed the minimal maximal of the x-axis, and this is how to use the chart editor to make changes in the graph. The second example I'd like to give you is a histogram. We go to graphs, we choose legacy dialogues, we go down to histograms, and we select that variable. Histograms are good to display normal distributions or continuous variables, adding a normal distribution curve through these different variables we have. So let's see if systolic blood pressure, how the distribution look like. We choose systolic blood pressure, we choose the title, distribution of systolic blood pressure, and we can have a line 2, which means dwarfs of the Santa Claus super study, for instance. We continue, and then we click on OK. You can choose to display the normal curve here or in a chart editor. I'm going to show you in a chart editor how it works to make it a little bit more complicated. We click on OK, and as you see, we have here the title number 1, the subtitle, distribution of SBP, dwarfs of Santa Claus super study, and our histogram. To change some features of it, we double click on it. For instance, you do not like if you do not like the color of the bars of the histogram, you can change them. First of all, let us show you how to put a normal distribution curve in it. So under elements, similar like in scatter plot, we have different options. Here we add show distribution curve, and you see now SBS fits you, puts you the best possible normal distribution curves through these different points. Again, we don't like that line that much, so we go here in the property window to lines. We select maybe a red color. We want to make it really, really thick that really everybody can see it, and I prefer have it intermediate, and I click on apply. And you see how the line now changed. For instance, I'd like to change the color of the different charts here. I select them, and here the property window change slightly. We can hear the filling border. I like to have it blue, as it's one of the 2 colors of my favorite football team, which is Barcelona, as you probably already realized. So I click on apply, and you see here we have a nice change. We have everything changed to blue. We close the window, and by now I'm happy with the window. If you would like to do additional changes, you can go to edit. You can here select the X and the Y axis, make changes. You can rescale the chart. You can go to view and see different elements, remove from the edit toolbar. This is more like the editing the window in order for the chart editor. In options, you can have different kind of options. You can change the title, you can do annotation, you can add text boxes. It's really up to you to play a little bit around. And the best thing, you have a tutorial. So if you're help, you can go to topics and tutorial. This applies to entire SPSS. So once we're happy with our graph, we close that window, and you see this is now what we have. It also gives you explains you what the dotted curve is. It's a normal curve as you see in this figure. So I hope that this helps you how to create scatter plots and histograms. I really ask you, play around with the function of the chart editor, try to change colors, sizes, dots, do everything you can, everything you like. It's really up to you. I hope you're gonna have fun with doing histograms and scatter plots. In the next video, I'll show you 2-3 more examples of graphs in SPSS. Thank you very much.